What's up guys, it's Lily. As you can tell, this video is something different from what I usually do on my channel. Recently I've been posting more fashion-oriented, style, lookbook videos, but I figured it would be nice to have a little bit of variety. Plus this is a video that I wish I would have watched before starting high school. For a little bit of context, I'm 17 years old, I'm a junior at a highly competitive high school. I've taken multiple AP classes and definitely gone through some challenging curriculum, and I like to think I've learned a lot these past 3 years. Before we get into my big sisterly advice, I'd like to make a couple of notes. The qualifications for this video are the ones that I already mentioned since I am a current high school student and an upperclassman, but in no way does this mean that I'm a professional life coach or anything like that, or that I think I know more than you or something like that, so please don't take this video the wrong way. This is just some general life advice and some lessons that I've learned throughout my high school experience that I think would be good to share with you guys. These tips and universal truths don't exist just in high school. Of course, they can help you in college or middle school or in your career, or even just as you live your day-to-day life. So keep that in mind if you are watching this and you are not my target demographic for this video. This video is broken down into 12 core statements that I think are the most valuable life lessons that I've learned in high school, and each of them can be found along the bottom of the video as I've divided it all into chapters. I don't want to make my intro too long, so let's get right into the first truth. Nothing matters as much as you think it does in high school. I feel like in middle school we're all told, this is just to prepare you for high school. A high school teacher would never let this fly. And in my personal experience, I felt that the transition from middle school to high school was fairly seamless. By the time I finished 8th grade, I felt ready to leave. I felt as though I had outgrown the middle school environment. I thought I was too cool to stay in that building. I was a big fish as an 8th grader in that pond, but once I got into high school, I was a small fish in a huge pond. To give some perspective, my high school has around 4,000 students from grades 9 through 12, which meant that my class size is around 1,000. At first, it can seem really overwhelming with all the upperclassmen roaming around you that all seem like they're gigantic, and it's quite easy to feel like if you make a single misstep, your whole life will be ruined. Because honestly, I feel like high school is hyped up a little bit too much. And especially teen movies and TV shows don't help at all with that. I mean, seriously, I waltzed in there expecting like Regina George and Gretchen Wieners to walk down the hallway, and in reality, that doesn't really happen. These bring me to my next few sub-points under this category. Don't be the person to peak in high school. If you're lucky, you're only about a quarter of the way through your life. You have so many more experiences ahead of you, and high school is kind of just like one tick on the timeline. Sure, decisions you make and habits you form will certainly impact your future, but remember, the actions that you take in high school and the things you do probably won't be the make or break factor in your life. To put this statement into a social context, everyone is basically just focused on themselves. Once you get over the initial self-consciousness of coming into a new school and kind of feeling like everybody's watching you, just remember that even though you're the own narrator in your life story, everyone has a constant monologue inside their head and they're the narrators of their own lives. So really, to other people, you're just a side character. So please don't spend a lot of time worrying about what other people think of you. Anyway, I made those explanations kind of long-winded, but hopefully you get the point. Make sure to remember that high school is only 4 years, and again, it won't necessarily make or break your life. To be honest, it's really not that big of a deal. Which brings us to statement number 2, never trust your first impressions. I cannot stress enough the importance of making educated judgments over time. This piece of advice can work in almost any context. For example, on the social side of things, if you know a rumor or if someone has a reputation, don't make any judgments until you can really see for yourself. I find in high school a lot of drama is kind of just, well, like the word says, over-dramatized. This isn't to say you shouldn't trust your friends when they tell you something, but I would always take secondhand accounts of something that happened or a certain person's character with a grain of salt. No one can make up your mind about anyone or anything except for yourself. On that vein, never judge a book by its cover. It's an old cliche, but it's been proven true so many times. There have been quite a few people that I've grossly misjudged, and I'm ashamed to say it, for better or for worse, throughout middle school or high school. And I say for better or for worse because sometimes it can be a close, lifelong friend that you end up finding out isn't that nice of a person, at least at this point in their life. Or on the flip side, someone you thought you wouldn't like or someone you made a snap judgment about actually could turn out being a really nice person. This goes for classmates, this goes for teachers. It's hard not to feel kind of ashamed when you make a negative judgment about someone that was uninformed and then you later find out it wasn't true. So in order to avoid that, keep the mindset innocent until proven guilty. In reality, you have no obligation to prove anything to anyone. This one goes out to you, people pleasers. And yes, I am actually talking at myself in the monitor because I am a chronic people pleaser. I get it. Throughout my life, I've been in so many situations where I've been overly competitive, overly stressed, and just so anxious because I had this need to prove to others that I was really good at something, or I was really involved with this, or I was such a good person. When in reality, a lot of the times, me trying to prove these points to other people often went unnoticed by them and just made myself feel more miserable. For example, if you've been in a situation where you felt the need to show someone up or one-up them, check yourself. Is it because you feel a need to prove to them that you're better or that you're equally competent? Then reconsider if it's worth it, or quite frankly, if they even care. Because honestly, one of the worst things is trying to impress someone that does not even want to be impressed. You don't need to be a show-off. Your skills, your talents, and your characters will speak for themselves. This is another one for my people pleasers. Not everyone is going to like you. And that's okay. Gravitate instead to those who do. You can never, ever please everyone. And that's not to say you should go around and purposely do things that someone doesn't want you to do, but oftentimes when people try to please others, they lose sight of themselves and their core values. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure that you're not changing yourself to get other people to like you. And if you do encounter someone who ends up just not liking you for their own reasons, you have to make peace with that. As obvious as this sounds, I feel like I have to say it. You can't make someone like you. And the sooner you realize that, the better. The truth is, no one else knows what they're doing either. If you end up feeling a little bit lost or seeing someone that you feel like has their life so put together, you're probably wrong. To be honest, no one really knows what they're doing at this point in their life. Everyone is just doing their best to get through the day, and everyone has their own struggles. You don't need to worry about being so far behind or feeling like you have no idea what to do with your life, because everyone goes about things at their own pace. And remember, those in your grade level, especially as you're entering the high school, you're all on the same playing field. All of you are new to the building, none of you have been in high school before, and chances are, if you're the new kid, there's another new kid as well. Remember that you don't exist in a vacuum. High school is honestly hard for everyone, and if you're struggling with something and you feel a little bit self-conscious about it because you don't know if others are going through the same, most likely they are. Change is inevitable. Embrace it. As you're entering high school, and quite frankly throughout high school and throughout life, change is going to follow you wherever you go. And if everyone on Earth tried to resist change and never evolved, well, honestly, we wouldn't be anywhere. And of course, high school is a time where a lot of change will happen. More likely than not, you're in a larger environment with more opportunities. And as you go through your life, you'll kind of have this rotating door of friends, acquaintances, relationships. Some will stick around longer than others, and some just kind of need to be left in the past. Additionally, your interests might change. And that's okay. You don't need to feel tethered to a certain extracurricular, sport, or interest. Remember that you are always evolving, and so too will everything around you. It's high school, so you're growing up. Those around you will mature, you'll mature. And so really try not to hold on to the past too much. Change is going to happen whether you like it or not, so you might as well embrace it. Never let fear hold you back from a viable opportunity. Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you will fall among the stars. That was a poster in my elementary school classroom, and it's still stuck with me, I guess. One of the things I've learned in high school after taking a few risks, going out on a few limbs, is that honestly the worst that can happen is someone says no. And that's why, of course, within reason, you should seize any opportunity that comes to you, even if it's a slim chance. Take advantage of your youth, not to sound like a boomer. But honestly, you're only in high school once, and so you should try as many things as possible without letting fear hold you back. Do not let enough time pass that a viable prospect becomes a regret. And you don't need to be self-conscious either. You never need to be the best, the smartest, the coolest, etc. Because to be honest, there's always going to be someone better, cooler, or smarter than you. You notice how a lot of these points are interconnected, right? So if you're feeling a little bit self-conscious about something, just go for it if it'll make you happy. For example, I've always been interested in trying out modeling, and I thought it would be a great way to make some side income and gain new experiences. But for the longest time, to be honest, I always felt a little bit self-conscious about it because I was like, what if people think I'm a snob? What if people think that I'm stuck up? And the deepest fear was rejection. I was scared of getting rejected by an agency and the internal dread that what if I'm not pretty enough? What if I'm not good enough? But in the January of 2021, I applied to a few agencies, and here I am today. I've worked a few jobs, and I'm so glad I took the leap because otherwise I would never be here. Same goes for this YouTube channel. It's something that I've been wanting to start for a long time, but to be honest, I just had this weird fear that if someone found out about it, it would be embarrassing, and sometimes it is, because I'm not someone that likes flaunting a lot of what I'm doing. But then I just need to remember, hey, it's a hobby, it makes me happy, and there's really nothing wrong with it, so why not? You're practically an adult. Act like one. Sorry that these points are a little bit out of order. I just wrote them all down on a Google Doc as I could think of them, so if this video seems a little bit disjointed to you, I apologize. As you go throughout high school, you're becoming closer and closer to being an adult, which sounds kind of scary, but it's true. While you're in the building, you'll probably get your license. Now you can drive a car. When you turn 18, you'll be able to vote. Those are things that adults do. With this new freedom comes new responsibilities, which I know, no fun. The expectations are higher, and students and staff will kind of expect you to behave more professionally than you would in middle school or elementary school. Decorum. And I know this might sound kind of harsh, but at a certain point, you really just need to grow up. I don't expect you to pull up to school with like a briefcase or anything. But at some point in high school, hopefully you find yourself in a place where you can escape the petty drama, be with people who are good influences on you, and make decent life decisions. In high school, I found that parents and teachers are a whole lot less involved with kind of tracking you down and keeping track of your schedule, making sure you turn in your homework. You're kind of just responsible for yourself. Once you get to this level in your education, you have to actually face the consequences of your decisions. Which brings me to my next point. Excellent transition, Lily. Take responsibility for yourself. Sure, there are a lot of things you can't control. For example, I was a freshman and a sophomore during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is still happening, but I speak about this in the remote learning quarantine sense. And of course, that was just a natural disaster that I really had no control over. But there are some things that you can control. For example, your schedule, your actions, and how you interact with other people. Let's start with your schedule. I already mentioned how in high school you're a lot more self-managed. You don't need a babysitter anymore. You should be accountable for your own schedule, keep your commitments, stay on time, be punctual. You are also responsible for your actions. You should self-correct, learn how to actually apologize. Saying I'm sorry actually means a whole lot if it's done in a genuine way. If you did or said something negative to someone else, you should definitely own up to that, take responsibility for it. It's the mature thing to do. If you found yourself in a pickle or you're getting really stressed about something, remember that perspective is everything. This is the time to self-evaluate. Will you remember this struggle within a week, a month, a year, a decade? If your answer is no, or if your answer is yes, but I'll laugh about it, it probably isn't that big of a deal. And I don't mean for this section to be insensitive. I'm talking about like failing a test or falling behind in school. Not a big tragic event. Obviously, you should take those seriously. But you do need to remember that there is a bigger picture, and this one snapshot of your life does not represent what the whole thing will be. If you want to get kind of existential, remember the scale of the freaking universe. I mean, what are we really? You're 1 in 7 billion on this Earth. Then zoom out, Earth is just one planet. These planets and the sun are part of one solar system. The solar system is part of a huge network of solar systems, and astronomy is not my strong suit, but you get the point. I mean, I don't mean to be morbid, but we're kind of just specks of dust. Long story short, there's a lot of things that don't need to be blown out of proportion. This too shall pass, and one day it's pretty likely that you'll be able to look on it with complete peace. That brings me to my next point. Anything can be a learning experience if you treat it like one, and there's always more to learn. This is kind of a dorky one, but it's true, and it doesn't even have to be academic. It can be out in the world just through people watching or taking a stroll through nature. I wouldn't know, I don't go in nature. Lessons can even be derived from the most mundane of life experiences. Don't be so quick to write something off, because the likelihood is you can learn something from any experience. For example, I'm currently taking a business program, and while I'm doing pretty well in it, I've learned from this business program that I never want to go into business. And honestly, I think that's valuable. It just means discovering something that I won't want to waste time on in the future. If no one learned from their mistakes, no one would evolve. Basically, if you want to be a well-rounded, well-learned person, then you need to constantly keep learning. That's kind of the way to level yourself up in real life. Achieve a higher sense of being. Not really, but you guys get the point by now, right? And that brings me to my last point. Live the way you want people to remember you. I know you're most likely only a teenager and you haven't started thinking about your legacy, but remember, what you say and do around other people will have an impact. All people's pursuits in life are different, and I'm not here to tell you that one legacy is better than another, but it certainly doesn't hurt to start thinking about how your actions and your presence will have an impact in the future. This could be your nudge to start more volunteer work, or to start a club, or to put a little extra effort into being nice to people. Just remember that one day you'll look back on your high school experience and you basically have control over how you remember it. The goal is to have very few, if any, regrets about how you lived your life back then. Alright you guys, that is the end of this video. I know that all of these statements were very broad, large-scale, zoomed-out life advice type things. But if you'd like to see a more practical video about very specific high school advice, like how to stay on top of your coursework, how to keep a planner, how to interact with your teachers, just let me know in the comments and I would be totally down to do one of those. I really hope this video didn't come off as too preachy. Obviously, these are some universal truths that I myself am sometimes struggling to live by, but I'm doing my best. And just know that what matters more than your actions are your habits, the things that you repeatedly do that eventually turn into your character. There are a lot of things in life that you can't control, but remember that you have autonomy over your own words and actions. Thank you all so much for watching. I know, again, that it's different than what I usually do, but I hope you enjoyed. And that's it. Bye!